Welcome back, everyone. This is Classic Homesteading Practices, and today we're going to be talking about gardening. Now, this is the last episode in the second season of this podcast, and the reason being is because these are the core skills that I know and I would love to be giving to you as a homesteader. I believe that these are the best skills to learn, whether you pick one of them or all of them, to start off homesteading. And the reason being is because you have learned about building, making your own clothes, cooking, and owning, raising, and prolonging the line of animals for food. And now you're going to be learning another way to grow food, a more substantial way of growing food that you are going to be doing for a long-term period of time. And I also just want to talk a little bit about the fact that after this season is done, after we're putting the garden to bed, basically, we're going to start getting more in-depth on each section, talking about each skill a little bit more in depth so you can get a handle on it more so you can use it in your everyday life. It's a supplemental studying basically for helping you go further into homesteading in whatever fashion that you want, or just so you can have a skill to become more independent and also have something tangible that you can work with. I hope that sounds interesting to you, and I hope you're ready to learn about gardening. So, at its basic form, gardening is the ability to grow food from seed in the ground or in a growing medium all the way up until harvesting. Now, harvesting can be the roots, the vegetation, the leaves, and the fruit that you get off of a plant. It is the distinction between calling it root vegetables, which again is taking the vegetation off of your plant, the leafy greens, or fruit, which is usually the product of a plant that holds seeds. It is the fruiting body that you pluck off of it. Hence the different names between fruits and vegetables and roots. Kind of fun. I learned that a little while ago, even though I've been doing this gardening thing for over a decade. And the most essential thing when it comes to gardening truly is understanding the plant and what it needs, and also building a good foundation for your plants. It's kind of like with animals in the sense that you're going to need to build infrastructure, but it's out of dirt instead of wood and nails. So for your infrastructure, you're going to be building a dirt plot. And this can be done through regular composting, which is the decay of fruits, vegetables, eaten by worms, or just over a period of time, it has slowly become mush and dirt. And living organisms have eaten it down into basically bacteria poop, for lack of a better term. But the reason why you want this is because it is full of nutrition for your plant. Dirt in general is full of nutrition for your plant, and usually the nutrition is called NPK, or nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. All these different chemicals help to bring up or give nutrition to your plant. It is the food for your plants. And there is an amount of NPK in all dirt. That is why plants, big and tall, trees, bushes, and so on, can grow, because there is an abundance of nutrition that is able to sustain the environment or the plants around it. It's pretty amazing when we think about it that there is literally food in dirt for our food. So, first you need to section off a place in your home, whether it is inside or outside of your home. So for people with apartments, I definitely say go ahead and get a pot somewhere in a windowsill that is south facing or will get a lot of sunlight throughout the day. And make that your place, basically, where your plants are going to live. For people who are outside, you may have a small place, a patio, a deck, or there might be people who have much bigger plots of land, and you can have more freedom in what you want to do. But anyway, figure out where you want to have this place for your plants, whether it be a tomato plant or a pepper plant or rows and rows of corns and beets, lettuces, a variety, or just one thing in particular that you want. And now that you've figured out where you want it, let's go and look at dirt. Now, personally, I really dislike people who subscribe only to compost and who look disfavorably on big box stores. And the reason being is because dirt is dirt. And as long as you get it from a good supplier, it's not moldy, and it smells decent, it smells like dirt and not manure, you should be fine. And the only reason why I say that is because if it still smells like manure, that means that there's hot compost in there and it's going to burn your plants, and we'll talk a little about that later. But don't be discouraged if you hear somebody say, oh, don't get that big box store stuff, go and get local or go and make your own compost. You don't need to. Don't listen to that crap. It's just because people are stuck in their ways and they have their own preference. And being able to realize that dirt has nutrition is sometimes very strange for other people to learn about. I will say this though, being able to capitalize on dirt and sell it for a very high price is highway robbery, especially because you can go into your forest, get a wheelbarrow, a box, or bring your pot from your apartment with you and just stock up on it. Though, I will say this, don't get caught by your neighbor doing that in their backyard. They'll get mean on you pretty dang quick. Anyway, after you've found your dirt, whether it is compost material, dirt from your big box store, or from the dirt company down the street, now you have your planting medium. There are some things that you're going to have to worry about, like drainage, whether your dirt is too compact or too loose, and you might have to mix some things in there. Now, I will say this. That is probably the biggest reason why people love compost, is because it is naturally able to drain very easily, so your roots don't get root rot, which is when water sits in the dirt too long. It's trapped and unable to filter through the dirt. And it's also not too drain heavy, which means that the water goes through the dirt too fast. But if you're somebody who just wants to go ahead and get local dirt because it's a lot cheaper, I would say get a bag of perlite, which is an aerated rock that has been crushed down into little pieces. It's white. And mix that in 1 part dirt to 1 part perlite. So if you have 50 pounds of perlite, you need 50 pounds of dirt, and so on and so forth. Now, if you have good dirt and you're going to be tilling it, you don't have to worry about that. But if you have rocks in your dirt, either take a hoe to it and get them out as much as possible, or do above ground gardening, which means you just put dirt on top of the rocks and dirt. And the reason why I say this is because you don't want to try and dig until your tools break and your back breaks with it. Make it easy on yourself. Putting dirt on top of dirt and rocks will not only make your life easier, but it will help you be able to build a garden again for many years to come, because you are helping out your land by giving it good soil, and you're helping out yourself by being able to give a medium to work with your plants. So there are many different ways to do gardening, as I just showed you, whether it be a pot, above ground, below ground, even hydroponics, which means that you have the roots of your plant sitting in water and you give it fertilizer, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, your NPK, through a fertilizer. And again, I will say this, a chemical fertilizer, which means that it has been processed down into the materials concentrated that you see as Miracle Grow or other big box store brands. Or you can do natural fertilizer, which means that a lot of people do compost tea, where they get a giant hunk of compost and they stick it in a bag, and they stick that bag in water, and they let all of the nutrients just drain out of it until the water turns brown. And you take that water and you put it in your hydroponics, and the plants basically feed off of it that way, or they feed off the nutrition that you put in the water. And all of these are pretty easy and decent ways to give your plants food if you decide to go that route as well. But on the safe side of people not doing hydroponics, which I promise in the season where we talk about gardening, I will get into hydroponics. I will get into all different kinds of gardening styles. It is my love in life. Especially when you become a homesteader, it will be your love in life, because you have so much variety in gardening, along with any other skill that you pick up from this, that it is endless. You will spend your entire life learning about gardening, your entire life, and it never stops. And it truly is amazing how different one gardening style is from another. But let's keep going. So earlier I was talking to you about how there is hot fertilizer or hot compost. So you've got your dirt, you go to the store, or you're going to go buy dirt. You go to the store to pick it up. You open up the bag when you get home, and it smells like steer manure or any kind of manure, which is animal poop. That means that it hasn't had enough time to cook out, or it hasn't sat enough for the manure to properly develop and cool off. Now, what these terms mean, hot versus cold, is whether it's fresh or it's ripe enough to be properly put into the bed. Or in a more scientific term, it means that it's nitrogen hot, where there's too much nitrogen that hasn't been broken down yet in the manure to make it safe for your plants to have. If you put a hot manure into your plant bed, it will chemically burn your plants, and your plants will die because it's just oversaturated with these chemicals, or with the nutrients, basically. So, usually, depending on the animal, depends on how quickly you can put the manure into your dirt. Manure is a great fertilizer. It's an amazing thing to put in your compost, again, because it is the food, or it becomes food for your plants. And it can make your plants turn very big, green, and luscious over a short period of time. So, depending on what animal fertilizer that you use depends on how long the fertilizer is going to stay hot. So, for instance, with chickens, you usually wait a year before you put it in your beds. Pigs and cows, you wait 2 years. And again, it's just letting the manure process down into its final state where it is manageable to have your plants eat it. And the nice thing is that with some animals, though, it's already cold fertilizer, which means that everything is broken down to the point where you don't have to worry about it hurting your plants. And this is usually all herbivore animals or animals that give you pellets, pellet poop. So rabbits, alpacas, goats, up in the north, moose and deer. And yes, I have definitely taken to moose poop before. I do not recommend it unless you are not the faint of heart, because up here in the north, we do not have too much of a concern for heartworms in moose, or worms in general, because they usually eat spruce needles, which makes their intestines deworm naturally. But down in the south, I don't know how different that would be. And so, as to not put parasite fertilizer into your plants, I would strongly recommend looking up and seeing if that is a good plan to do before you get some natural fertilizer instead of your locally grown fertilizer. But I've had many people put pellet poop right out of the goat or rabbit and right into their beds to fertilize, and it has never burnt their beds unless they do loose stool, which means that the ruminant or the herbivore has eaten grain and it has done wrong to their intestines. I would not advise doing let's just say it. I would not advise putting diarrhea from an animal into your beds, or your garden beds. But, again, it's a wonderful way to get your partner into getting animals along with having a garden, because you can say it's a dual animal now, because not only are you doing it for meat or for eggs or for milk, but you're also doing it for cheap fertilizer. And that's one less cost you have to deal with when you're going to the grocery store. And that way you can also say that your animals are helping you make your food and their food as well. Because if you have them out on a pasture and they're pooping along on the pasture, they are refertilizing that area so they can make food for themselves next year. Take that, people who do not want to have animals. Or hesitant spouses, take that. You're doing good. Remember, animals help the farm as long as you know how to use them properly, and also take care of them properly. Anyway, alright, let's see. I've talked about infrastructure. If you're going to be using a pot, the ground, in-ground, above-ground, hydroponics. I've talked about food, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, which helps the plants grow. It's the basic nutrients to make plants grow, fruit, and so on. And, I should probably talk to you about the stages and why NPK is so important. The general version is that it is nutrition. It is their food. But there are particular stages in plant growth that makes NPK so important. Nitrogen, which is the N of the group, is what makes the plant at the very beginning grow tall and green and bushy. When you see nitrogen doing its work, you're going to have a very healthy and strong plant. Now, the phosphorus is what will help with blooming and blossoming, and this can be very helpful for fruiting plants like peppers, tomatoes, bananas. If you want to go real crazy, this also helps with trees of any kind, and grapes. Wherever you may be, if you have a fruiting plant, have your phosphorus. And also, this pertains to root vegetables. Phosphorus is very important because it helps with root development. If you want large roots on your root vegetables like beets, radishes, rutabagas, turnips, make sure that it has phosphorus in it. It's one of the leading chemicals that you will see in your root fertilizer. And then your potassium. Potassium is really important for fruiting fruits and vegetables because it's going to help you provide the needed, well, we'll just say food, the necessary food, the necessary energy, there we go, to make your plant fruit more. So if you have a normal harvest and you say that your normal tomato plant will only give you about 10 tomatoes, give it some potassium. I really love using molasses water, and I kid you not, a producing plant will usually go time and a half, so instead of 10 tomatoes, you'll have 15, or you can even double, maybe even triple sometimes, depending on your weather conditions, because that really matters as well on your production. And it's just because potassium is what is needed for that stage of development in order for your plants to give you more fruit, which is the biggest reason why a lot of people have a hard time when it comes to growing plants, is because we're not always given the information that we need in order to understand, plants need food. Well, I'll give them fertilizer. Well, why are you giving them the fertilizer? Are you sure you accidentally gave them too much? Or are they starving because they have so little? And that's something that for me, I wish I had learned, and my mother really wishes that she had learned when we started going in and looking in on NPK as gardeners. And I kid you not, our harvests became double the amount in 1 year when we started paying more attention and learning more about the nutrition that plants need. And on top of it, it was so much fun learning about this because our plants were hardier, the harvest was amazing, and we were able to teach others about this as well. And living in the north, where people say you can't grow tomatoes outside, I was able to show people that you were able to do it because I followed the directions and I learned what plants need for nutrition. And I also studied plants. I am a very big tomato lover. I found out that there are certain conditions that a tomato plant needs in order to grow up in Alaska outdoors. It needs full sunlight. It needs above 40-degree weather in order to stay alive. As long as it doesn't get down into freezing temperatures, most tomato plants will survive. And as soon as it starts hitting 70 degrees, well, even 65, those buggers will blast off, and they won't stop growing unless they are a determinate plant. That's another thing that we will be talking about in the gardening season, is determinate versus indeterminate plants. And I would definitely ask you to take this time into just writing down certain things that seem interesting to you, because I can't get all of the information out to you at one time, but look up what indeterminate and determinate plants are. It's really amazing. I love how there's so much knowledge into learning about, again, something that grows until it's no longer able to grow versus something that is determined. It has a set amount of fruit or a set amount of growth that it's allowed to do before it no longer is able to go. It basically, the plant dies. I guess I kind of gave you that answer of what an indeterminate versus a determinate plant is instead of asking you to look it up yourself, but I couldn't help myself. I love gardening. It is a love of life once you get to studying and looking it up. But again, this is not for everybody, but for people who want to grow food, just go with it and have fun with it. It's amazing. All right, now that I've talked to you about putting your plants in the ground, so the infrastructure, the food, so NPK, dirt itself, and how you can get it from anywhere, basically. Just don't get caught. Please don't actually do that. That's very bad, and I do not want to be in trouble for, or I don't want to be responsible for you getting in trouble for that. I also talked to you about how NPK works, and indeterminate versus determinate plants. What else? The different types of gardening styles. I mean, I have 5 more minutes that I can talk to you about this, so I guess I could give you a little bit more information. Yes, wonderful. So let's talk about frost hardy versus frost tender plants. Frost hardy plants are plants that can take light freezes. So if something gets below 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius, a root vegetable and leaf vegetables are usually frost hardy, which means that they will not die. They will keep growing as long as it, again, just as a light frost and then gets back into above frost temperatures. Now, frost tender plants, on the other hand, will die because there is a lot of water that is usually inside of a plant. And when the plant's water crystallizes from the frost, so it turns into ice basically inside the stalk or the plant, and then it rapidly goes back up above freezing temperatures, the little water crystals burst because they were warmed up too quickly, and that makes the cell structure of your plant basically just blow up and kills the plant. So when it talks about your plant being a frost tender versus a frost hardy plant, take that in mind that you are able to put your plants outside after it is consistently above freezing, or your frost hardy plants, you can actually put them in the ground. You can put the seeds in the ground 2 weeks, sometimes even 4 weeks before you start having consistent temperatures above freezing. Now, people are concerned sometimes with frost hardy plants that they will not sprout, that the seed will die, and I can tell you from experience that that doesn't happen. The germination cycle, which means the plant popping out of the seed and growing, takes a little bit longer just because cold usually makes the metabolism, or for a better way to put metabolism, is the machine that processes energy in the seed. It just makes it go slower. So the ability for it to become an actual plant out of the seed takes a little bit longer. But as soon as it starts to get any kind of warmth above freezing, it'll still grow, and then it'll just stall itself out when it goes underneath freezing. And then as soon as it goes above freezing again, it'll get ripped right back up and it'll keep going. Now, when a root plant versus a lettuce plant is a frost hardy plant, because that's typically what's going to be a frost hardy plant. Root plants actually love frost. And the reason for this is because the leaves on the top are told to stop growing, and all the energy starts to be put into the root so it can store energy during the winter time, during the cold time of the year. And with root plants like beets and radishes, you want that giant root because that is the product you're working with. So starting them off in the cooler temps of the spring or close to fall, summer times, is the perfect time to grow these plants. Another thing that you need to make sure to look at, and I can't believe I didn't think about this sooner, is one, germination rate, and also how long is it going to take until you harvest. So germination rate is what happens, or the rate in time that your seed pops a little plant out. And for some plants, it's within days. You put the seed in the ground, you water it, and 3 days later, it'll pop up. That's the germination rate. It's 3 days. While some plants, oh goodness, like corn, it'll take you 2 weeks to see a little plant pop out after you put it in the ground. And also you have to remember afterwards is the harvesting date, which is the date in which after the plant has come out of the ground. It does not include the germination time period. So even though it says 80 days until harvest or 80 days until you can pick your plant, it's talking about 80 days after your plant has popped up out of the ground. Then you can go ahead and start the timer. 80 days after that, you can harvest your plant. I hope I'm making sense to you about that. And the reason why is because when you think that you can include your germination time with it, and it's been 80 days and your corn is not ready to pick, you kind of get a little upset about that. Especially because you had the timetables put into a certain way that it's fall, and if you have to wait an extra 2 weeks because you forgot about your germination time, your plant that is not frost hardy could die before you get a crop, and then you're just out of it and you've waited all this time for nothing, which is why a lot of people get discouraged because the plant dies, the plant does not produce, or something went wrong and you were so close to getting a harvest and the frost just took it out. Or hail sometimes, wind even. Nature's not nice sometimes. Actually, she's a cruel mistress who holds on your life, your plants, your animals for ransom sometimes. And the only thing that you can do is either curse at her or shower praise and say, hey, just keep holding the sunshine out for me, please. But as I have so lovingly found out with studying gardening and also learning about nature, is that now with today's technology, we can actually look at our electronic almanacs, farming almanacs, and see what years were good, and they can determine how good this next harvesting season is. So whenever you decide to go ahead and start a garden, whether you are those people living down in the Golden Belt that can grow gardens all year long, I'm jealous of you, or you decide to do it up in the north, check your almanac and see what the prediction of the weather is going to be for the summer season, and that can also help you with growing your garden and picking out which different kinds of fruits and vegetables you want to put inside your home, in a greenhouse, or outdoors. Because if it's going to be a cold summer, boy oh boy, your lettuce, your kale, and all your root vegetables are going to do great. But those tomatoes and those peppers, you got to keep them indoors. On the other hand, though, if you're going to have a hot summer, everything when it comes to nightshade plants are going to do amazing. Well, except for potatoes. Potatoes are tubers. They love cold weather to a point. But they're going to do amazing, and all of your root vegetables and your lettuce are going to bolt, which means that they're going to go to seed immediately and you won't get a harvest on those. So just make sure that you look at that almanac and see what your weather's going to be like. And also, I hope I can share so many more tips from the garden and from life with you, because we're almost there. We're almost to the point where we're going to be talking about each individual skill and how I can give you tips and also my personal experience on how I became better at each individual skill. And I really hope that you guys will enjoy that, because this is it, folks. This is the last episode of Season 2. Which I hope you enjoyed very much. It was very wonderful for me to give you all this information about gardening and building, sewing, cooking, and animal husbandry. Oh, and I can't wait to help you out some more. And I hope this information makes you prepared for anything, independent, self-sufficient, or you're just having fun getting ready to build your own homestead. All right, everybody. This is Classic Homesteading Practices. Have a good one. Bye.